The galaxy had forgotten about humans. 300 years had passed since the Great Purge. And in that time, the Galactic Empire had grown fat and lazy. They ruled over 2,000 star systems. They controlled billions of alien species. They believed they were the masters of everything that existed. In the great halls of the Imperial Council on planet Voros, the leaders of the Empire held their meetings. They talked about trade routes. They talked about mining operations. They talked about which smaller species to conquer next. But they never talked about humans. Why would they? Humans were dead. Humans were nothing but old stories that grandparents told to scare children. Long ago, the old ones would say, there was a species called humans. They came from a small blue planet. They were weak. They had no claws. They had no scales. They could not breathe in space. They could not see in the dark, but they were dangerous. So dangerous that our ancestors had to destroy them all. The children would laugh. How could such weak creatures be dangerous? It made no sense. Governor Rock sat in his floating chair and looked out the window of his office. He was a tall creature with gray skin and 4 arms. He ruled over the Earth sector, which was now just a collection of dead planets that the Empire used for mining. Earth itself was a graveyard. The cities were dust. The oceans were poison. Nothing lived there anymore. Sir, said his assistant, a small creature named Pick. We have reports from the mining teams on Earth. Rock did not turn around. What is it now? Did they find more old human bones? No, sir. They found something else. A structure underground. Very deep underground. Our scanners did not detect it before. Rock finally turned. This was strange. The Empire had scanned Earth many times over the centuries. They had found everything there was to find. Old buildings, old machines, old weapons. All of it was useless junk from a dead species. What kind of structure? Rock asked. We do not know yet. The team is investigating. But sir, there is something else. The structure has power. It is still running after all this time. Rock felt something cold move through his body. It was not fear. Creatures like him did not feel fear. It was just surprise. Yes, that was all. Send more teams, Rock ordered. I want to know what is in that structure today. Avermen, far below the dead surface of Earth, the mining team walked through dark tunnels. There were 6 of them, all wearing protective suits. Their lights cut through the blackness. The air was old and dead, but their instruments showed something ahead. Team leader Gon was the first to see it. A door. A massive metal door built into the rock. It was covered in strange symbols that none of them could read. Human writing. He had seen it before in museums, but never like this. Never this well preserved. What is this place? Asked one of his team members. I do not know, Gon admitted. But look at the door. There is a light. Something inside is still working. He touched his communicator. Governor Rock, we found the structure. It appears to be some kind of bunker. Very old. Human design. There is power inside. Should we enter? There was silence. Then Rock's voice came through. Enter. Document everything. If there is anything valuable, report immediately. Gon looked at his team. They were all nervous, but orders were orders. He pressed his hand against the door, searching for a way to open it. The metal was cold, colder than it should be. Then the door moved. It slid open with a soft sound, like a whisper. Inside, there was light. Soft blue light that came from machines built into the walls. The team walked forward slowly, their weapons ready. They did not know what they expected to find. Old human bodies, perhaps. Old weapons. Old treasures. What they found was a room full of pods. Large metal pods. Standing upright like soldiers in a line. There were hundreds of them. Maybe thousands. Stretching back into the darkness, each pod had a small window. Each window had frost on it. Gon walked to the nearest pod and wiped the frost away. He looked inside, and he saw a face. A human face. The human was sleeping. No, not sleeping. Frozen. Preserved in ice and machines. Its eyes were closed. Its skin was pale but not dead. There was a name written on the pod in human letters, but Gon could not read it. Governor. Gon said, his voice shaking now. Governor, you need to see this. There are humans here. Alive. They are frozen, but alive. The silence that followed was long and heavy. That is impossible, Rock finally said. We killed them all. The records say we killed them all. The records were wrong, sir. There are thousands of them here. Maybe more. On planet Voros, in his office high above the clouds, Governor Rock stood very still. His 4 hands gripped the edge of his desk. Around him, his advisors were talking quickly, their voices full of confusion and concern. But Rock did not hear them. He was thinking about the old stories, the stories his grandfather had told him when he was young. Humans were not strong, his grandfather had said. They were not fast, they were not smart, not like us, but they had something else. Something that made them terrible. They never gave up. You could hurt them. You could take everything from them. You could push them to the edge of death, and they would keep fighting. They would find a way. Always, they would find a way. That is why we had to kill them all. Not because they were dangerous then, but because of what they could become. Rock had laughed at those stories. Everyone laughed at them. Humans were just another failed species. The galaxy was full of them. But now, standing in his office, Rock did not laugh. He gave an order, the only order that made sense. Kill them all, destroy that bunker and everything in it, now. Deep underground, in the bunker that had hidden for 300 years, Gon received the order. He raised his weapon and pointed it at the nearest pod. His finger touched the trigger, and then the pod opened. The human inside moved faster than anything Gon had ever seen. One moment it was frozen and still. The next moment, it was standing in front of him, its hand wrapped around his throat. The human's eyes were open now. They were dark brown, almost black, and they burned with something that Gon did not understand. The human spoke. Its voice was rough and dry from centuries of sleep. But the words were clear. Where is my family? Gon could not answer. He could not breathe. He could only look into those terrible human eyes and understand, finally, why his ancestors had been so afraid. The human dropped Gon to the ground. Around them, more pods were opening. More humans were waking up. And every single one of them looked angry. The galaxy had forgotten about humans. But humans had not forgotten about them. The human's name was Tay. He stood in the blue light of the bunker, surrounded by fallen aliens and waking humans. His body was cold. His muscles hurt. His mind was full of fog, but his heart was burning with a fire that 300 years of frozen sleep could not put out. The last thing he remembered was the sky falling. It had been a normal morning. He had woken up early, like always, because soldiers wake up early. His wife Hana was still sleeping. His daughter Sue was in her room, probably dreaming about the birthday party she wanted. Sue was going to be 7 years old in 2 weeks. Tay had already bought her present, a small robot dog that could bark and follow her around. He had hidden it in the garage. Then the alarm started. The news came fast and terrible. Alien ships in the sky. Thousands of them. Millions of them. They came from nowhere. From the darkness between stars. And they brought death with them. The cities burned first. Seoul, Tokyo, New York, London. One by one, the great cities of Earth turned to fire and ash. Tay was a soldier. He had trained for war. But not this kind of war. Not against enemies who could turn entire countries to glass with a single weapon. Not against enemies who saw humans as nothing more than insects to be stepped on. He fought anyway. Everyone fought. For 3 days, the human race threw everything they had at the invaders. Guns, missiles, nuclear weapons. It did not matter. The aliens were too strong. Their ships were too many. Their technology was too advanced. On the 3rd day, Tay received new orders. Report to a secret base in the mountains. Bring your family. Tell no one. He did not understand the orders, but he followed them. He found Hana and Sue in a shelter outside the city. They were dirty and scared but alive. He put them in his vehicle and drove through the chaos, through burning roads and falling buildings, until they reached the mountains. The base was hidden deep underground. Thousands of people were there already. Soldiers, scientists, doctors, families. They were all confused and frightened. But the generals explained everything. "We cannot win this war," the lead general said. His name was Chul, and he was an old man with white hair and tired eyes. "The aliens are too powerful. They will kill all of us. But we have built something. A last hope. Cryogenic pods. We can freeze people. Keep them alive for hundreds of years. Someday, the aliens will leave. Someday, there will be a chance. And when that day comes, someone needs to be alive to take it." Tay looked at his wife. Hana was holding Sue in her arms, and Sue was crying quietly. They had lost everything. Their home, their friends, their world. But they still had each other. "How many pods do you have?" Tay asked. "Not enough," General Chul admitted. "We must choose carefully." The choosing was terrible. Families were separated. Friends were torn apart. Tay was selected because he was a soldier with special training. Hana was selected because she was a doctor. Sue was selected because she was young and healthy. They were given pods next to each other. Tay helped Hana into her pod first. He kissed her forehead and told her everything would be fine. She smiled, but her eyes were full of tears. "I will see you when we wake up," she said. Then Sue, his little girl, only 6 years old, too young to understand what was happening. She held his hand tightly and asked him to sing her favorite song. He sang it, even though his voice was breaking, even though his heart was shattering into 1,000 pieces. "When I wake up, can I have my birthday party?" Sue asked. "Yes," Tay promised. "The best birthday party ever." She smiled and closed her eyes. The pod sealed around her, and the cold took her away. Tay climbed into his own pod. The last thing he saw before the ice covered his eyes was the ceiling of the bunker. The last thing he heard was the sound of explosions far above. The aliens had found them. Then there was nothing but darkness and cold. Now Tay was awake, and the first thing he did was look for his family. He ran through the bunker, past rows and rows of pods. Some were open. Some were still closed. Some were dark and broken, their occupants long dead from power failures over the centuries. Tay did not look at those. He could not look at those. He found Hana's pod in row 15. It was dark. The window was covered with black ice instead of white frost. The machines around it were silent and dead. Tay fell to his knees. He pressed his hands against the cold glass and looked inside. He could not see anything. He did not need to. He knew. He knew without looking that Hana was gone. The pod had failed sometime in the past 300 years, and she had died alone in the frozen dark. "No," Tay whispered. "No, no, no." He stood up and ran again, faster now. Desperate. Row 16. Row 17. Row 18. Where was Sue? Where was his little girl? He found her pod in row 21. It was also dark, also dead, also silent. Tay did not fall this time. He stood very still and looked at the pod. At the name written on the side in letters he had written himself 300 years ago. Sue. His daughter. His baby. The girl who wanted a birthday party. The girl who liked robot dogs. The girl who trusted him to keep her safe. Gone. Something broke inside Tay. Something that had been holding him together since he woke up. Something important. He screamed. The sound filled the bunker, echoing off the walls, mixing with the confused shouts of other humans who were waking up to their own nightmares. He screamed until his throat was raw and his lungs were empty. Then he stopped. He turned around and walked back to where the aliens lay. Most of them were dead, killed by humans who had woken up fighting. But one was still alive, the one called Gon. He was crawling toward the door, trying to escape. Tay grabbed him and lifted him up. The alien was heavy, but Tay did not feel the weight. He did not feel anything except the fire inside him. "Tell me everything," Tay said. His voice was calm now, quiet. That was the most dangerous thing about him. "Tell me what happened to my people. Tell me who did this. Tell me where they are." Gon talked. He talked fast and scared, saying everything he knew. The Great Purge, the destruction of Earth, the 300 years of empire, the belief that all humans were dead. Tay listened to all of it. When Gon finished, Tay asked one more question. "Your leaders, the ones who gave the order to kill us, are they still alive?" Gon shook his head. "No. They died long ago. But their children rule now. Their grandchildren. The empire continues." Tay nodded slowly. "Good. Then I have a lot of people to visit." He dropped Gon and walked away. Other humans gathered around him. Survivors from the pods. People who had lost everything just like him. They looked at him with questions in their eyes. "What do we do now?" one of them asked. An old woman with gray hair and strong hands. A soldier, like him. Tay looked at her. He looked at all of them. Hundreds of humans. The last of their kind. Standing in a bunker, under a dead world. "Now," Tay said, "we make them remember why they were afraid of us." Above them, on the surface of Earth, more alien ships were arriving. Governor Rock had sent an army to destroy the bunker and everyone in it. The aliens thought they were coming to kill some weak, confused survivors. They were wrong. The humans were not weak. They were not confused. They were angry. And they were just getting started. The alien army arrived at dawn. 300 soldiers in heavy armor, carrying weapons that could turn rock into dust. They marched across the dead surface of Earth, past the ruins of old cities, past the bones of a forgotten world. They were confident. They were powerful. They believed this would be easy. Governor Rock watched from his ship in orbit. He wanted to see the bunker destroyed with his own eyes. He wanted to be sure. The reports from the mining team had disturbed him more than he wanted to admit. Humans alive after 300 years. It seemed impossible. But he had seen the video. He had seen the human grab Gon's throat. He had seen those dark, burning eyes. The old stories echoed in his mind. They never give up. They find a way. "Always." "Sir," said Pick, his assistant. "The army has reached the bunker entrance." "Good. Tell them to destroy it. No survivors." On the surface, the alien commander gave the order to attack. His soldiers raised their weapons and aimed at the bunker door. Then the ground opened up beneath them. Humans burst from hidden tunnels like water from a broken dam. They moved fast and low, using the rocks and ruins for cover. They carried old weapons from the bunker's armory. Weapons that had been waiting 300 years to be used again. The aliens were surprised. For just a moment, they hesitated. That moment cost them everything. The humans did not hesitate. They had spent 300 years in frozen sleep, dreaming of their dead families and their burning world. They had nothing left to lose, and everything to avenge. They fought with a fury that the aliens had never seen before. Tay was at the front. He had found a rifle in the armory, an old human weapon that still worked perfectly. He fired and moved, taking down aliens one after another. His face was calm, his hands were steady, but inside, the fire was burning brighter than ever. The battle lasted less than an hour. When it was over, 240 aliens were dead. The rest had run away. The humans had lost only 12 people. In orbit, Governor Rock watched in silence. His 4 hands were shaking. "How is this possible?" he whispered. "They had old weapons. They had no armor. How did they win?" No one answered him. No one had an answer. On the surface, Tay stood among the fallen aliens and looked up at the sky. He could see the ships in orbit, tiny dots of light against the stars. He knew they would send more soldiers. He knew this was just the beginning. "We cannot stay here," he said to the other humans. "They will bomb this place from space. We need to move." An old woman named Bora walked up to him. She had been a general once, back when there was still a human army. Now she was just a survivor, like everyone else. "Move where?" she asked. "Earth is dead. There is nothing here." "Earth is dead," Tay agreed. "But there are ships in orbit, and we are good at taking things that do not belong to us." Bora looked at him for a long moment. Then she smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had lost everything and decided to burn the world down in response. "Tell me your plan," she said. The plan was simple and crazy. The aliens would send more soldiers. When they did, the humans would ambush them again. But this time, the goal would not be to kill. The goal would be to capture. Capture soldiers. Capture armor. Capture vehicles. And then, capture a ship. It took 3 weeks. The aliens sent 5 more waves of soldiers. Each time, the humans let them land. Each time, the humans ambushed them in the ruins and tunnels. Each time, the humans took what they needed and disappeared. The Empire did not understand what was happening. They had fought many wars against many species. They knew how enemies were supposed to act. They surrendered. They negotiated. They tried to survive. Humans did none of these things. Humans attacked and attacked and attacked, like they did not know they were supposed to lose. Governor Rock became more desperate. He sent bigger armies. He used better weapons. He even dropped bombs on the surface, destroying huge areas of land. Nothing worked. The humans always escaped. The humans always came back. "They are like ghosts," one of his commanders said. "We cannot find them. We cannot catch them. Every time we think they are dead, they appear somewhere else." Rock did not answer. He was looking at the latest report. 50 soldiers dead. 10 vehicles missing. And something else missing too. A transport ship. The humans had stolen a transport ship. "Sir," Pick said nervously, "what do we do now?" Rock turned to look at his assistant. For the first time in his life, he felt something like fear. "Find them," he said. "Find them before they find us." But the humans did not want to be found. Not yet. Tay flew the stolen ship through the asteroid belt, hiding among the rocks and ice. With him were 200 humans. All that remained of the bunker survivors. Some were soldiers. Some were scientists. Some were ordinary people who had become fighters because they had no other choice. They landed on a small asteroid, one that the Empire's scanners could not detect. There, in a cave that protected them from space, they made their first real home in 300 years. "We need more people," Tay said during their first meeting. 200 is not enough to fight an empire. "There are no more people," someone said. "We are the last humans." "No," said a young woman named Yuna. She had been a scientist in the old world, an expert in computers and data. "We are not the last. I have been studying the alien networks. They have records. Old records from the Great Purge. Not all humans were killed on Earth. Some were captured. Some were taken as slaves to other planets." The room went quiet. Slaves. Their people had been kept as slaves for 300 years. "Where are they?" Tay asked. "Many places. Mining colonies. Factory worlds. Some died over the years. But others had children. And those children had more children. There could be thousands of humans still alive, scattered across the Empire." Tay stood up. The fire inside him burned even brighter now. His family was gone. His world was gone. But his people were still out there, suffering under alien masters. "Then we know what we need to do," he said. "We find them, we free them, and we build an army." General Bora nodded. "The aliens forgot about us. They thought we were finished. They are about to learn that humans never stay down. We fall. We hurt. We bleed. But we always get back up." Everyone in the room raised their hands. It was an old human gesture, a sign of agreement, of unity, of determination. 200 hands reaching for the ceiling of a cave on a tiny asteroid in the middle of nowhere. It was the beginning of the revolution. Over the next months, Tay and his people began their work. They attacked small empire outposts. They stole weapons and ships. They hacked alien networks and found the locations of human slaves. And one by one, they started setting them free. The freed slaves were confused at first. They had been born into captivity. They had never known freedom. They had been told their whole lives that humans were weak, that humans were meant to serve, that resistance was impossible. Tay showed them the truth. Our ancestors survived ice ages, he told them. They survived plagues. They survived wars. They built cities and ships and machines that took them to the stars. And when the aliens came to destroy them, they did not just give up and die. They built a bunker. They froze themselves. They waited 300 years for a chance to fight back. That is what humans do. We survive. We adapt. We overcome. No matter how long it takes. No matter how much it hurts. The slaves listened. They looked at Tay with his burning eyes and calm voice. And something inside them woke up. Something old and powerful. Something that their masters had tried to destroy but could never quite kill. Hope. One by one, the slaves became soldiers. The army grew. And across the empire, people started to whisper about a ghost. A human phantom who appeared from nowhere and vanished into the dark. A man who could not be caught. A man who could not be killed. They called him many things. The ghost, the shadow, the angry one. Tay did not care what they called him. He only cared about one thing, making the empire pay for what they had done. 2 years passed. In those 2 years, Tay became the most wanted criminal in the history of the Galactic Empire. His face was on every screen. His name was spoken in every council meeting. Rewards were offered for his capture. Armies were sent to hunt him. But no one could find him. He moved like smoke through the stars. Today he was on a mining colony, freeing slaves. Tomorrow he was on a factory world, destroying weapons. The day after, he was attacking supply ships, stealing food and medicine for his growing army. The Empire called him a terrorist. They called him a monster. They said he was killing innocent people and destroying everything good that the Empire had built. Tay did not care what they said. He knew the truth. The Empire was built on bones. Human bones. The bones of his wife and daughter and billions of others who had died just because they were different. His army now had 10,000 soldiers. They had ships and weapons and bases hidden across a dozen star systems. But it was still not enough. The Empire had billions of soldiers and millions of ships. Fighting them directly would be suicide. So Tay did not fight directly. He fought smart. The Empire is like a tree, he told his commanders during a strategy meeting. A very big tree with very deep roots. We cannot cut it down all at once, but we can cut the roots one by one. We can starve it. We can weaken it. And when it is weak enough, we can push it over. General Bora, now his second in command, nodded. What roots do we cut first? Communication, Tay said. The Empire is big. Too big. The only thing holding it together is their communication network. If we destroy that, they cannot coordinate. They cannot send orders. They become 100 separate pieces instead of one whole thing. It was a brilliant plan. And it worked. Over the next 6 months, human teams attacked communication stations across the Empire. They did not destroy the stations completely. That would be too obvious. Instead, they planted small devices that caused problems. Messages arrived late. Orders got mixed up. Important data was lost. The Empire did not notice at first. The problems were small, but small problems became big problems. Ships went to the wrong places. Armies did not receive their supplies. Governors could not talk to each other. And while the Empire was confused, Tay struck. He attacked a weapons factory on planet Dron. The factory made the energy rifles that alien soldiers used. Without that factory, Thousands of soldiers would have no weapons. He destroyed a fuel depot in the Kesra system. Without fuel, ships could not fly. An entire fleet was stuck in space for 3 weeks. Unable to move, he freed 2,000 human slaves from a mining colony on Vex Prime. Those slaves became soldiers. Those soldiers freed more slaves. The army grew and grew. Governor Rock watched everything from his office on planet Voros. He had been promoted since the Earth incident. Now he was High Commander of the Human Response Force, a fancy title that meant one simple thing: catch Tay or die trying. So far, he was failing. The human is everywhere, he complained to his advisors. We send ships to catch him, and he attacks somewhere else. We protect the factories, and he attacks the fuel depots. We protect everything, and he attacks nothing. Just waits until we make a mistake. How does he always know what to do? One of his advisors, an old creature named Dak, cleared his throat. High Commander, perhaps we are thinking about this wrong. What do you mean? We keep treating this like a normal war. Enemy attacks, we defend. Enemy runs, we chase. But the human is not fighting a normal war. He is fighting the way humans have always fought. Rock leaned forward. Explain. I have studied human history. Not the official records, but the real ones. The ones from before the Great Purge. Humans were never the strongest species. They did not have claws or armor or special powers, but they were masters of one thing: adaptation. They could change themselves to fit any situation. When they faced stronger enemies, they did not fight with strength. They fought with tricks and patience and endurance. They made their enemies tired. They made their enemies confused. And then, when the enemy was weak, they struck with everything they had. Rock was silent for a long moment. You are saying we cannot beat them by being stronger. I am saying we need to understand them before we can beat them. We need to think like them. Quote, then find me a human, a living one. I will make them talk. It took a month, but Rock finally got his human. Her name was Mira. She was 17 years old, born into slavery, and she had been captured during a failed raid on a supply convoy. They brought her to Rock's office in chains. She was small and thin, with dark hair and darker eyes. She did not look dangerous. She looked like a child. Rock walked around her slowly, studying her. You will tell me where Tay is hiding. Mira looked up at him. Her eyes showed no fear. I do not know where he is. No one knows except his closest commanders. Then you will tell me how he thinks, how he plans, how he makes his decisions. Mira laughed. It was a strange sound, small but strong. You want to understand humans? I can tell you. But you will not like it. Rock gestured for her to continue. We are not fighting because we think we can win, Mira said. We are fighting because we have to. Because giving up is not in our nature. You can kill us. You can hurt us. You can take everything from us. But you cannot break us. We are like water. You punch water, and your fist goes through. But water keeps flowing. Water finds cracks. Water wears down stone. That is what we are. We are water. And your empire is stone. And stone always loses to water. It just takes time. Friend, Rock stared at her. For a moment, just a moment, he understood. And what he understood frightened him. Take her away, he ordered. Lock her up. Maximum security. But Mira was not done. As the guards dragged her toward the door, she called out one last thing. Tay lost his family in the Great Purge. His wife, his daughter. You took everything from him and thought that would make him weak. You were wrong. You made him into the most dangerous thing in the universe. A human with nothing left to lose. The door closed behind her. Rock stood alone in his office, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Tay was planning his next attack. Somewhere out there, an army of angry humans was getting ready to strike. And for the first time in his long life, Rock understood that he might not survive this war. 3 days later, Mira escaped. Someone had hacked the prison's computer systems. The doors opened. The guards were knocked out by sleeping gas that came through the air vents. When they woke up, Mira was gone, and a message was written on the wall in human letters. Rock had the letters translated. They said, "Thank you for keeping her safe for us." Rock. Below the message was a symbol. A human hand. Fingers spread wide, reaching up toward the sky. It was the symbol of the revolution. And it was appearing everywhere now. On walls, on ships, on planets across the Empire. Wherever there were humans, there was the hand. Rock sent the message to the Imperial Council with a single note attached. "The humans are coming. We should be afraid." The Council did not listen. They never listened. They still believed they were the masters of the galaxy. They still believed humans were weak. They would learn the truth soon enough. 5 years after Tay woke up in the bunker, the human fleet emerged from the asteroid belt. There were 1,000 ships. Not big ships like the Empire had. Not powerful ships with massive weapons. They were small and fast, built from stolen parts and human creativity. They looked like junk compared to the shining vessels of the Imperial Navy, but they carried something more powerful than weapons. They carried 50,000 human soldiers. All of them angry. All of them ready. Tay stood on the bridge of the lead ship, looking at the view screen. Planet Voros floated ahead. The heart of the Empire. The place where the Great Purge had been planned 300 years ago. General Bora stood beside him. "The Imperial fleet is moving to intercept us. 2,000 ships. They outnumber us 2-1. Numbers do not matter," Tay said. "Courage matters. Purpose matters. They are fighting to protect their power. We are fighting for our future." The battle began. Imperial ships moved in perfect formation, their weapons charging with deadly light. They expected the humans to attack directly, to crash against their defenses like waves against a wall. That was how enemies always attacked. That was how enemies always lost. But the human fleet did not attack directly. They scattered. The 1,000 ships split into 100 groups, moving in every direction at once. They were smaller and faster than Imperial ships. They could turn quicker. Stop quicker. Hide behind asteroids and moons. The Imperial commanders tried to chase them, but it was like trying to catch smoke with your hands. Then the human ships started striking back. Not at the big Imperial vessels, but at the small things. Communication arrays. Engine exhausts. Weapon ports. They hit and ran, over and over again. Governor Rock watched from his command ship, his 4 hands gripping the arms of his chair. "What are they doing? Why do they not fight properly?" "They are bleeding us," Dak said quietly. 1,000 small cuts. None of them deadly. But together, they will drain us dry. Then destroy them, all of them. "We cannot catch them, High Commander. They are too fast, too many." The battle lasted 3 days. By the end of the first day, the Imperial fleet had lost 100 ships. Not to direct combat, but to accidents and malfunctions caused by all the small damages they had taken. Ships ran into each other because their communication was broken. Ships exploded because their engines overheated. Ships drifted away because they had no fuel. By the end of the second day, the Imperial fleet had lost 300 more ships. The commanders were exhausted. The soldiers were terrified. They had never fought an enemy like this. An enemy that would not stand still. An enemy that would not give up. On the third day, Tay called his ships together. "The time has come," he said over the communication network. Every human soldier heard his voice. They are tired. They are confused. They are afraid. Now we show them why their ancestors tried to kill us all. Now we show them what humans can do. The human fleet moved as one. They did not scatter this time. They did not run. They flew straight at the heart of the Imperial formation, all 1,000 ships together, like an arrow aimed at the sky. The Imperial ships fired everything they had: beams of light, explosive missiles, clouds of metal that could tear through armor. The space between the two fleets became a storm of death. Human ships exploded. Hundreds of them. Good people died. Brave people who had fought for 5 years and would never see the end of the war. But the human fleet did not stop. They flew through the fire. and the death, and they reached the Imperial ships, and they crashed into them. Not physically. That would have killed everyone. They landed on the Imperial ships. They cut through hulls with special tools. They poured into the enemy vessels like water through cracks, hand-to-hand combat, human against alien. This was what the Empire had always feared. This was why they had tried to destroy humanity so long ago. In close combat, humans were terrifying. They were smaller than most aliens, weaker than many, but they fought with a ferocity that nothing else in the galaxy could match. They did not hesitate. They did not retreat. They pushed forward and forward until either they were dead or their enemies were. Ship after ship fell to the humans. The Imperial soldiers, who had never faced anything like this, broke and ran. Some surrendered, some hid, some jumped out into space rather than face the angry creatures with dark eyes and determined faces. Tay led the attack on the command ship. He walked through corridors filled with smoke and fire, stepping over fallen enemies, until he reached the bridge. Governor Rock was waiting for him. The alien stood in the center of the room, surrounded by his guards. But the guards were not fighting. They had dropped their weapons. They had seen what happened to the rest of their fleet. They knew they could not win. So, Rock said, his voice calm despite everything. The human phantom finally shows himself. Tay stopped a few meters away. His rifle was pointed at Rock's chest. His finger was on the trigger. He had dreamed of this moment for 5 years. He had imagined pulling that trigger and watching the alien fall. "You destroyed my world," Tay said. "You killed my wife. You killed my daughter. You killed billions of innocent people just because you were afraid of us. We were right to be afraid." Rock said, "Look at what you have done. Look at what you have become. You are exactly what we thought you were. Monsters." Tay was quiet for a long moment. The fire inside him was burning hotter than ever. It would be so easy to pull the trigger. So easy to take revenge. So easy to become the monster that Rock was talking about. But then he thought of Hana. Her kind smile. Her gentle voice. And he thought of Sue. Her laugh. Her dreams of birthday parties and robot dogs. They had not raised him to be a monster. "No," Tay said. "We are not monsters. We are survivors. And unlike you, we know how to build instead of just destroy." He lowered his rifle. "Your empire is over. Your fleet is destroyed. Your leaders will face justice for what they did. But we will not kill you. Not because we cannot. Not because we are weak, but because we are better than you. We are humans." Rock stared at him. For the first time, there was something like respect in the alien's eyes. "What happens now?" Rock asked. "Now we build a new galaxy. A better one. One where no species has to be afraid of being destroyed just because they are different." And the war ended that day. It took many more years to rebuild, many more years of hard work and difficult choices. The empire was broken into smaller nations, each one governing itself. The freed human slaves built new homes on new planets, and slowly, carefully, the different species of the galaxy learned to live together instead of fighting. Tay did not become a king or a president. He did not want power. He had never wanted power. He had only wanted justice. He settled on a small planet in a quiet corner of the galaxy. He built a house by a lake. He planted a garden, and every year, on the anniversary of the day he woke up in the bunker, he would sit by the lake and talk to Hana and Sue. He would tell them about the war, about the things he had done, about the things he wished he had done differently. He would tell them about the new galaxy being built, about humans living free among the stars, about children who would never know what it was like to be afraid. And sometimes, when the wind was just right, he could almost hear Sue asking him about her birthday party. "Yes," he would whisper. "The best birthday party ever." The galaxy had forgotten about humans. They had forgotten what humans were capable of. They had forgotten that humans never give up, never surrender, never stop fighting for the people they love. Tay made sure they would never forget again. But this time, They would remember humans not as monsters or ghosts or angry phantoms. They would remember humans as the species that could have taken revenge, but chose mercy instead. The species that could have built an empire of their own but chose freedom instead. The species that knew how to destroy but preferred to create. And somewhere, in the peaceful silence of the galaxy, 1,000 human children looked up at the stars and dreamed of the future. It was a good future. It was a human future.